Athens, 399 BCE. A man sits in a jail cell on the day he will die. He has spent his final hours arguing that the soul is immortal. His friends, men who already believe in immortality and reincarnation, begin to sob. And the condemned man does something no one in the room expects. For the first and only time in all of Plato's dialogues, Socrates laughs. This is the central paradox of the Phaedo. The man facing death is serene, his believers are shattered. Socrates grasped something about dying that even his devoted followers could not reach. To understand why Socrates laughed, we need to rewind to the beginning of his last day. The dialogue is narrated by Phaedo, a Pythagorean. The Pythagoreans were a quasi-religious, mathematical brotherhood who believed the cosmos is built from number and that the soul reincarnates across multiple lives. The room is full of them. These are not skeptics. They share Socrates' deepest convictions. Phaedo describes a strange atmosphere. Those present felt the urge to laugh and weep at the same time. Then a small detail with enormous symbolic weight. The jailer removes Socrates' chains. Plato is not just reporting a fact. Chains removed from the body foreshadow the soul's release from the body. The physical unshackling anticipates metaphysical liberation. Socrates offers three arguments for the soul's immortality. The first, the argument from opposites. Greek natural philosophy observed that states cycle. Hot emerges from cold, waking from sleep, the larger from the smaller. Life and death, Socrates argues, follow the same pattern. The living come from the dead, and the dead from the living. Death is not a final destination, but a transition back toward life. The second, the argument from simplicity. Composite things decompose. A wooden ship rots because it is assembled from pieces. The soul, Socrates claims, is simple and indivisible. It has no components to separate. What is not composite cannot decompose. Two arguments, each with a clean internal logic. The third argument runs deeper. The argument from Recollection draws on Socrates' famous demonstration in the Meno, where an uneducated slave boy solved a geometric proof through guided questioning alone. Socrates' explanation: the boy was not learning, he was remembering. All knowledge is recollection from a prior existence. If the soul possessed knowledge before birth, it existed before birth, and what existed before the body may well persist after it. Three arguments, each elegant, each pointing the same direction. And here is the Phaedo's first crucial lesson. Socrates himself acknowledges that none of these constitutes a conclusive proof. They gesture toward a truth about which we hold strong opinions but lack certainty, intellectual humility, modeled at the highest possible stakes. But Socrates' own friends were not satisfied, and their objections cut deep. Simmias and Cebes are Pythagoreans, right? They want Socrates to be right. Their critiques arise from intellectual honesty, not hostility, and that makes them more devastating, not less. Simmias offers an analogy. Think of a lyre. The harmony it produces is something real. It is distinct from the wood and strings that generate it. You can hear it, you can describe it, yet destroy the instrument and the harmony vanishes instantly. Right? It cannot survive the thing that produced it. Now Simmias draws on Hippocratic medicine, which understood health as a harmony, an attunement of the body's elements. The soul, he suggests, might work the same way, an emergent property of the body's organization, real, distinct, even beautiful, but when the body breaks down, the soul dissolves with it. The soul's reality does not guarantee its independence from the body. Cebes drives the point further from a different angle. Grant everything Socrates claims, grant reincarnation, grant that the soul survives one death, even several. A person may outlast many coats, wearing each one out in turn, but eventually the person himself dies. The soul might be longer lived than any single body. It might inhabit dozens of incarnations, but that does not make it eternal. It may exhaust itself after enough cycles. Wearing out like the wearer who has outlasted all their clothing, Simmias challenges the soul's independence from the body, Cebes challenges its permanence. Together they leave Socrates' case profoundly incomplete. Socrates responds as best he can, but concedes that more dialectical work is needed, work he cannot complete in his remaining hours. He urges his companions to continue the inquiry after he is gone. Yet he takes a clear stance. He is certain he will join the gods, and hopeful he will encounter virtuous souls. This is not optimism, it is a structural claim about morality itself. If death is final annihilation, virtue that costs you your life becomes irrational. A coherent moral theory, one that explains why goodness is worth dying for, requires the soul's immortality as a foundational commitment. Ethics demands metaphysics. Socrates may have been the first to articulate this insight, but he was not the last. Over 2,000 years later, Immanuel Kant reached the same conclusion. Kant argued that immortality is what he called a postulate of pure practical reason, a belief that cannot be proven but is necessary for morality to make sense. Two thinkers separated by millennia, united by one conviction. Moral life demands commitments that reason alone cannot establish. Return to the opening scene. Socrates cannot prove immortality. His friends have exposed real gaps in his arguments, and yet Socrates, who has just conceded that his arguments fall short, faces death laughing. His friends, who have professed belief in immortality and reincarnation their entire lives, weep uncontrollably. The gap between philosophical conviction and the lived practice stands exposed in a single devastating moment. Plato is constructing a new kind of hero here. Not the warrior of epic, driven by honor and rage, not the clever trickster of comedy, not the flawed noble brought low by fate in tragedy. The philosopher who embodies wisdom, courage, and virtue simultaneously. Socrates is universal precisely because his heroism requires no battlefield, no birthright, no divine favor. It is available to anyone willing to examine their own life. The Phaedo is not primarily an argument for immortality. Those arguments are admittedly incomplete. It is a demonstration of what philosophy does to a person who practices it honestly and completely. It prepares you to face the one thing every human being must face. Socrates' final lesson is not that the soul is immortal. His final lesson is this: if you have used your life to pursue wisdom and virtue, there is nothing left to fear. The jailer enters the cell. Socrates takes the cup of hemlock and drinks without hesitation. He lies down and covers his face. His last recorded words are disarmingly practical. He owes a rooster to Asclepius, the god of healing, and asks his friend Crito to pay the debt. Inquiry did not begin with Socrates. It will not end with him. The conversation continues.